It's Sunday night. It's about a half hour away from midnight, 11:38. And sometimes I get dark thoughts. you know, I I have seen some stuff, right? There's a character, I think his name was Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China, and he said something like, "I'm a reasonable man who's seen some unreasonable things." So I just want to share. I'm probably going to make a video series about this. I'm going to call this Hitting Humans. And this episode is Roundhouse Kick. I don't claim to be a great master. I don't claim to be, there's people on YouTube saying I am walking. People have claimed to be walking encyclopedias of martial arts. People have claimed to be the utmost authority, infallible on various aspects of the martial arts. I just know what I know. And a lot of it's because I lived in a place called Had To. I lived in a place called Had To. And what does Had To look like? I had to hit people. I had to sometimes take people down. Sometimes they took me down. And they didn't have to hit me most of the time. Like, they could have went on with their lives, but they choose to come after me for various reasons, some of which I may have instigated, and others which they didn't like my face, they didn't like my nationality, they don't like the way I talk, they don't like the way I dress. And so I just had to hit them. They were hitting me, they were getting ready to hit me, they were drawing a weapon, right? And I think that is one advantage I have over many, many martial artists, maybe even great martial artists. Like, if you're Anderson Silva, I really doubt very many people sought him out to bully him. Right? Joe Louis, which many of the younger generation, they don't know what he is. I mean, especially when he was in his peak years, he was incredibly well-muscled, huge, lean, had abs, big hands, and, just had that look about him. I don't think people went out of their way to try to hit him. Whereas, especially if you're a white guy, back in the days, if you were a white guy my age or, younger or a little older, you just didn't like me. And some of them just wanted me eliminated from the face of the earth, right? So, and I had to hit them, and I'm still here. So I think I have probably been in that space of had to way more than many masters and grandmasters have, and for a longer span of my life, right? So let's talk about some of the ways in which I had to hit people as a scientific survey, as sort of, what happens when you hit people. So when I was younger, when I was a freshman in high school, I got in an altercation and I had to roundhouse kick someone. I saw an opening for it and I roundhouse kicked him in the leg, and then the other one I wanted to hit him. I wanted to scare this guy off, so I hit him lightly in the leg and lightly in the butt and then lightly in the rib. And, as fast as I could, kind of like the way Bruce Lee bounced the kick in Return of the Dragon. And this individual, I should mention that he opened up by trying to kick me in the groin and following through with a hook punch. A right kick, right hook to my temple. And I just backed up. He barely got that. Barely missed me with that kick and came in with that punch to the left side of my face. And I sort of was in a leaning back, kind of in a reverse bow. My hands were low. And that punch just barely missed me. And I threw those 3 kicks thinking maybe that'll make him back off. And what happened? Nothing. Nothing. It did nothing to him. And he continued to move forward, and I hit him with a knife hand strike to the solar plexus, and that stopped him. I mean, I was scared. He stopped breathing, right? And those roundhouse kicks did nothing. I'm not going to talk about roundhouse kicks that I threw in sparring, or in the ring, in a sort of kickboxing format. There was another time I had to roundhouse kick someone, and this was in the Marines, and we had words, and he started shoving, and I wound up doing a Wing Chun straight punch to his nose, which turned his head, and then things escalated. He had a wrestling background, and he got in his kind of wrestling stance and started to move in, and I roundhouse kicked him, and I think it landed somewhere in his chest or abdomen, and it didn't stop him, but it did. So it didn't knock the wind out of him. It stopped his forward momentum. Kind of started to move in, and the kick hit him, and I heard a thump in his chest. And he stopped moving forward, and he collected himself. And then I was in my stance. I had my right hand over here by my chin, my front hand kind of extended like this. A stance you might see in Shorin Kempo, right? And I was just kind of in a defensive posture. But I wanted him to continue his attack. And so he was just kind of looking at me, kind of reconsidering his options, because, he was maybe looking for an opening. Maybe he was afraid of getting hit again. And I decided to taunt him. And I said a few things that weren't very nice. And that made him shoot in and take me down. And I coped with him taking me down because his shoot was kind of like a tackle. It wasn't a double leg. A double leg would have dropped me in place and maybe slammed my head into the floor, which was concrete and linoleum. He tackled me and took me forward, and we landed on a strong aluminum framed big vinyl military cot. Okay? And it was actually strong enough to support us both. And, that altercation continued, and, I managed that situation. That was roundhouse kick, right? I've hit people in sparring. By far, I think, the two biggest hits that I ever gave anybody in a sort of sparring or training situation with the roundhouse kick. Front leg high to the face with instep karate style when I was in high school. And that dropped someone. And Muay Thai style with the right leg swinging through on someone's forearm, and that broke someone's radius and ulna, right? And I didn't intend that. But those weren't street altercations, so I think, if I recall, those are the only two times that I had to hit a human being in combat. One was self-defense, definitely. The other was a little bit more consensual. Right, I felt like I had to fight this guy. And some of the things I said might have been seen as inciting the situation. But hitting humans, that's the different ways in which those are effects. And I think there's a lot of martial artists out there who train for decades and have never actually lived and had to. And, what's the lesson I learned from this? In my freshman year of high school, I learned that all the powerful kicks that I was throwing in the air had never really taught me how to hit a person with depth and any form of penetration, right? And any form of trying to, damage someone. And then later, that second altercation in my 20s, he moved in and I just responded by picking up my front leg and hitting him. And again, it was a snapping, karate, taekwondo style one with the instep, and it hit the center of the person's chest. I think it probably hit the solar plexus, which by and far of all the times I've had to hit people, that's probably the target that I've had to hit most. And it momentarily stopped that person, and it changed the state of mind, and I actually wanted that state of mind back, which goes to show you that I wasn't wrapped too tight. I was very angry at the time with that person and that situation. So hitting humans, roundhouse kick.